All right. Hello, everyone. So lovely to see so many folks joining us today. I am Lori Van Orden, and I represent the Department of Marketing on the Macomb Staff Advisory Committee. We have a number of folks from the Macomb's SAC on the call today. Special shout out to Samantha Davis and Diana Bessler, who've been helping me with today's workshop, but thank you to everyone that's taking part. So I would like to welcome you all to our inaugural edition of the Horns Up, Skills Up workshop series. So our hope is that this workshop series will empower our colleagues through practical skills development, resource sharing, and community building. So today's topic is Qualtrics. So I will be leading you through a Qualtrics demo. And before I jump into the tool, I'll just kind of give you a broad overview. So Qualtrics is a really wonderful, flexible tool that all faculty, staff, and students at UT have access to. It's great because it is so flexible. It's also meets UT's compliance rules for Category 1 data and so forth, unlike something like Google Forms, which does not. And you can do all kinds of things with it. So for example, event registration, you can do student program applications, feedback surveys, data collection, collect documents, kind of the sky's the limit. So I am going to stop singing the praises of Qualtrics and jump right into showing you how to use it. But I will also say, if you have questions along the way, you're welcome to put them in the chat. Samantha is monitoring that for me today. I will pause periodically along the way for questions, but I also plan on saving some time at the end to answer questions as well. So let me stop sharing this screen and get into the tool. Let's see. Okay, are you guys able to see the screen with my login? Okay, so before I actually sign in, I will note, if you have never signed into a Qualtrics account, signing in one time will then create your account and you'll be set up and ready to go. I also want to note that I am logging into the UT instance of Qualtrics, the UT version of our account. There is also a Macomb's version of Qualtrics, Macomb's account, which is good to know because some of you and your teams might be using the Macomb's version of Qualtrics. They are very similar. They have slightly different functionality, but everything I show you today pretty much would work for both the UT version and the Macomb's version. I personally like the UT version better, so that's why I'm going to be using that today. So, oh, it did not like my login. Well, we will try that again. Please work, or we will have a very short demo. All right, I think it's actually logging in this time. Aha, okay. So I have logged in. Depending on how you have your user experience set up, you may or may not see the same thing. I have this set up where I have a dashboard with my most recent surveys live. You can see this is today's event. The number keeps going up. Thrilled to have so many of you here. Over here are more surveys. If you click here on See All Projects, it gives you more of a legacy view. Those of you who've been in Qualtrics for a long time, this is more what you would be familiar with. That shows lots and lots of surveys if you have lots, as I do. I have mine broken up into folders over here. We're currently in the Event Reg folder. I will note up here, you can share surveys with people if so. surveys that have been shared with you will live up here. So before I jump into showing you how to create a survey, I'll pause briefly just to make sure I didn't forget to mention anything and see if there are any questions thus far.
Nothing in the chat so far. You had one question earlier, but you answered it with your opening statement that everybody has access to it. So
Perfect. All right. So I am going to go in and create a new survey. So when you're creating a project, you have options. You can create a survey, just a blank survey from scratch. You can copy an existing survey and repurpose it. You can use a template from the library in Qualtrics. I don't personally ever use the templates. I typically either start from scratch or repurpose an old survey, but lots of options out there. So let's go here to this button to create a new project. And this is where you get all kinds of options. And I'm just going to go from scratch, create survey, down here, get started. All right. So creating a new survey, we need to give it a name. Doesn't hurt to use some sort of naming convention as you create your surveys. As I go through this, what I'm going to demo is an approximation of the RSVP survey that I created for today's workshop. So it was a pretty, simple, straightforward survey that I'm going to demo. So let's see, we'll call this 2023 531 sample survey. Now you choose where you want it. We're going to consider this an event reg since I have folders set up. And yes, we do want it to be blank. Create project. All right. So it automatically populates a default first question for you. Then you can go over here to this menu section on the left, where it gives you question type and drop down, and it has quite a few question types you can get into. There are some that are grayed out. We do not have access to those. So ordinarily, you could do text entry, and then you'd be able to ask for name, ask for email, so on and so forth for an event reg. What I like about Qualtrics is it also has this other option called form field, which I prefer for this type of question, which basically is multiple questions built into one larger question. So bear with my live typing. Let's see. Please provide inflow. So for example, here you can edit the text to ask for first name, last name, email. You can change the length of these. I usually try to make them all the same length. I'm not being that careful right now. Okay, so there's your question one. So to replicate the RSVP form that I created, there was an additional question. So you can either hit here for new question, or you can add new question here. I'll do it from here. Let's go with text entry this time. So the question was something along the lines of, what questions do you have? All right. So now this is a pretty good start to a survey. When I create these sorts of, especially for an event registration, but other sorts of surveys as well, I often like to do some forced responses. So that's where you can build in some validation. So you have a couple of options to do that. So let's say for this first question, you can go down here in this menu to response requirements and add requirements, add validation, but that's actually going to add it to the entire question. What's nice is you also can go here and say click to edit validation, and you can do it per sub question level. So in this case, let's go to validation. You have lots of options, but I just want to say force response. Let's do the same thing for the other ones. Out of it to save. And now our question has these little stars that is representing that these questions have response requirements because I included forced response. So there's some validation built into your survey. And really at this point, you can launch this and it would be enough to get you going to be able to, have a quick RSVP for an event. Down here is the end of survey message. So this is the default that Qualtrics provides. This is what would show up on the next screen after someone submits their survey. You aren't able to edit that from directly right here, but if you click on it, it brings up a new menu over here. We are in the default message, which works if you don't want to change it. But under default, you can click and you can go to custom. You have other options as well. And then under custom, you can grab one that you have created and saved in the past. I have several. Or you can go and create a new message. So for example, the description is what you're going to search for going forward if you want to repurpose it again. That's just a really generic one because I'm trying to do it quickly. So you can type whatever message you would like to show up on that screen. You can format it however you would like. Just doing a little quick example. Thank you for your RSVP. Six. A little bit better than thank you for your survey. All right, so it has changed here. And then you're able to test that out by testing your survey and then submitting your survey, and we can see that page pop up. So let me show you how to test your survey. Up here is a preview button. I really recommend you always go in and do a preview and test out your survey before you launch it. When you hit preview, it opens up in a new tab. Hopefully you guys are able to see the new tab I just opened. Okay, I see a yes. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. The nice thing is because I'm in the Texas version of Qualtrics, it's already branded. This is my quick survey. This is how people submit. I will note, make a quick sip. I don't talk this much in my normal job, so I'm already starting to lose my voice. Under tools right here, you are able to click ignore validation, which actually comes in handy when you start testing out more complex surveys. So, okay, looking at this, I'm happy with it. I'm going to test it out. So I recommend actually putting in your full email address and registering as if you're really registering for your own event. But in this case, I'm just going to do quick that just so you can see. So I'm going to hit submit. And now there is the little post message that I created for the survey. All right, so I'm going to go back. Well, yeah, I'm going to go back into this tab, which is how you get back to editing your survey. And so we have now created the survey. We have previewed the survey. We're happy with it. So the next step is to publish the survey. So to do that, over here is the publish button. And when you publish, it will go through an audit. So hitting publish. Here is the audit. So this was a pretty straightforward, simple survey, passed the audit, no problem. So it will let me publish. So I'm going to go ahead and publish. All right, so now my survey is activated. I have a link here that I can use to, put on a website or including an email, whatever you would like. I will note, I'm going to close out of here, that up here, there are multiple options. This is distributions. So now that I've published my survey, if you go under distributions, it shows you other options of how to share your survey as well. So we did the anonymous link. That's the same link you just saw in the window that popped up, but there's all kinds of other types of options, including a QR code. If you want to post this to a poster or a flyer, for example, you can download the QR code, and that's already created for the link to your survey. So to get back into being able to edit your survey, you would go up to survey, we're in distributions, so you go over here. And that brings you back to being able to make changes to your survey. However, I will caution you that if you have already published your survey, well, for one thing, if you publish it and you make changes, you will have to republish it in order for those changes to go live. But also, I will say, if you already have people starting to respond to your survey, it's really not a good idea to make any structural changes to your survey, because that can mess up your results flow going forward. You certainly can make some simple text edits. Please provide your info below to RSVP. That's now saved. And see here, I have to republish to make that change go live, but I wouldn't do more than just text edits at this point. Okay, all right, I'm going to pause here and see what things I have forgotten to mention and see what questions have come up.
Okay, we definitely have some questions this time. Let's start with what does the output look like for a form filled on a CSV report? Are they separate cells on the sheet?
So we are going to get into the output in just a minute.
Alrighty then. What are the differences between the UT and McCombs versions of Qualtrics? And then there was a note from somebody else in the chat that they've heard through staff council that if you use the McCombs version, it's hard to share with non-McCombs staff. Do you have any info on that?
So I can't tell you the exact differences between the McCombs and the UT version. There are some different question types that are available between the two. You would really have to just go in and log in and see, which are great at and which aren't between the two, if anyone is interested in that. I think that's a good point about the McCombs version not being as shareable between folks. So I think that might be another vote for why the UT version is probably better for most people to move towards.
Is there a way?
Personal opinion.
Is there a way to tell whether or not you're in the McCombs or UT version?
That is a great question. Diana, do you have an answer to that question?
Yes, look at your URL. The McCombs edition is going to have McCombs in that structure for the URLs when you enter into Qualtrics, where the UTexas license is going to have UTexas. So that's going to be the most straightforward way to know which one you're in.
Okay. Does the QR code expire?
As far as I know, if you have your survey remain open, it does not expire.
Okay.
But you could research that to make sure that that's correct.
That is correct.
All right. If we've edited and republished, do we need to send a different link, or does the old link work?
The old link will continue to work.
Okay. And then finally, people are interested in a back button on the survey, like how to do the back button. I'm hoping you've got that coming.
Yep, that's coming.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Great question.
There was one thing, Lori, that I think we should point out before we move on. If you go back to preview your survey, one of the things to think about when people are taking your survey is they might be on their mobile device. And so if you look at the toggle, you can turn on and off a mobile preview option. So that way you can see how your preview is going to look in both of those modalities to really think about like how the user is interacting.
Excellent call out. Thank you, Diana. Okay, so we've created our survey. We've previewed our survey, we've published our survey. Now people have started responding to our survey. So let's look at the options for looking at our results. Up here, I showed you distributions. Now we have a few different tabs related to results. I will say these two, the results tab and the reports tab, are a little bit more advanced options for reporting. And so I'm not actually going to be able to get into that today. But for today's purposes, I will show you data and analysis because that's a great way to be able to get a quick look at what's happening with your survey and then also to export it into a usable format. So when you open it, this is the default option it is giving me for what I'm seeing. I'll show you a little trick here. Over on the right, there is this column chooser that I like a lot. So if you click on it, you can get into your question. And here's the question that has more information. So if you choose these items, now those are showing up in my view here, which I find really handy when I'm just trying to glimpse at who has recently responded. But even more important is how to export. So here is your export import option. Go to export data. Now you have lots of options, even in what format you're going to export things in. You absolutely can do CSV. And the answer is yes, it will separate that into the individual columns, which is great. I don't personally use that very much. I more often use Excel. So that's the example I'm going to show you today. So here it starts to give you lots of options, even in what is going to show up in your download. Yes, I would like all of my fields to download. Here you have choices about if you want it to show up as choice text or numeric values, depending on your survey and your needs. Play around, see which makes more sense. Then there's even more options. So here, lots of things that you can choose. This right here, because that first question type I used was a field that had multiple questions within one larger question, that's actually what this is referring to. Would you like to split those into multiple columns? Why, yes, I would like those to be in multiple columns. So that is checked. And I will say just generally with Qualtrics, so much of how I've learned how to use it is click this button and see what happens. So I certainly recommend you guys playing around with all of the features and functions and seeing what works for your needs, whether you're exporting or creating a question or whatever the case may be. So now you hit download and it thinks for a moment. Okay, so here is my survey. So I'm not actually going to show you what the output looks like because I would have to change sharing screens and it takes a little bit of time. But I will say that it's a pretty straightforward spreadsheet. It will throw in additional columns that might not be necessary for you. They are very easy to just delete. It's some extraneous information you might not need. But it's very easy to clean up your data and have it very usable going forward. So I'm going to close out of here. That's sort of the quick show of how to get to your results and download them for usability going forward. I'll pause again just to see if there are any questions about that part.
Yes. Is there a way to pull one person's response in its entirety for printing?
Yes. So if you go to these three dots, it gives you lots of options. One of which is just view response. So here it is. I pulled up my response. It gives you all kinds of information. And then if you want to, well, I thought there was a way that you can just export that one I think ultimately the answer is yes, but you have to play around to see how to do it, because I thought I could do it directly from the response, but it's not giving me that option. But yes, I believe that that is an option to do. So with a lot of these things, again, it's just click trial and error, but there's also lots of resources behind the scenes for Qualtrics support, which will help answer some of those sorts of questions.
Is there a way to download a file that excludes all of the extra data in the first few columns, such as date, time it was submitted, and responder's location?
That is a great question. Maybe. I would say that's another one where you probably want to go in and just play with the settings and see what options you have. It's possible that even just doing that and then choosing things gives you options, but I don't actually know the answer to that question. I've always just deleted the ones that I don't need.
That's what we have for now.
Okay. All right, so we have now gotten through creating a survey, launching the survey, pulling our results from the survey. But again, it's a pretty basic survey. So let's go back into the edit mode of our survey. So up here in survey. And let's look at some ways to improve the look and feel of the survey and the functionality to work for whatever your needs are. So we've talked about these menus up here. Now let's talk about these menu options over to the left. So I will say the survey flow option, I don't personally ever use, but for more complex surveys, I know it will definitely come in handy. But this look and feel tab and the survey options tab I use for every single survey I launch. So let's start with this look and feel tab. Okay, so this gets us into a bunch of new menu options. As I mentioned, the UT version of this survey of the account already builds in some branding, which is very helpful. But I'm going to show you how to improve upon that. So for starters, McCombs, or UT, I should say, is having us all move to a different theme and layout to be more accessible. This is something that Qualtrics is also working to move towards to help with accessibility. So the default currently for us is under the static themes, and it's already marked down here, the U-Texas 2. But what UT recommends we now do is actually switch under this dynamic themes to this version of the U-Texas 2. And by doing that, where it says layout right here in gray, that's actually going to be flippable. So I have switched to this dynamic theme, and now I can click on layout. And now under layout, the one that is automatically selected by default is flat, but you see how this says recommended. They want us to move the symbol. Now, maybe at some point this will be the default, but right now we manually need to make these changes. And I will say one of the major advantages to going and doing this, for any of you that have been using Qualtrics and were able to use the upload file feature embedded into Qualtrics, and then because of accessibility reasons, we're no longer able to use the upload file feature, this is the fix for that. This is the workaround that UT has put into place so that you can, again, use the upload file feature and it is accessible. So I will note down here in the corner where it says apply, you do have to click that for it to save your changes. Otherwise, it'll yell at you and say, did you really want to do that? So I'm going to hit apply. And now I'm going to show you a couple other things that you can do within this menu. So here under general are a couple of handy tools as well. So the first one I'm going to show you is down here under header. So you can adjust what shows up below this Texas header, but above your survey. So hit edit and you can kind of do whatever you want. You can put whatever text you would like, format it however you would like. You can insert graphics, images, whatever you want to personalize things. Let's see, we'll call this just doing a really quick example so you can see how it looks. I'm going to do some quick formatting. Center it. Okay, super generic, I know. Hit save, but there, that's where it pops up. Again, whatever you would like. So also, I'm going to hit apply, and it'll save those changes. Now, the question about the next button. So in this version of the theme and layout, it now automatically populates to say next page, which I think is nice. But if you wanted that to say something else, this is also the menu under general here where you would make that change. So right now it says next page, but if you wanted to say something else, you could go here and hit new message. I created one at some point that says submit, so that's an option. So that's where you get in and make those sorts of changes. All right, I'm going to pause again for a moment and see what questions have come up.
All right, Lori, we're kind of going back to the previous section. There was a question that came in right at the end. Is there a way to pull all of the uploaded files that survey respondents have submitted, specifically photos?
Yes, so we may or may not have much time to get into the upload file functionality, but the answer is you can pull all of the uploaded files down into one folder, all for one question, all that were uploaded under one question. You can pull them all down in one file folder. There's also an option to, and actually I'll just show you because it's hard to explain. Under data analysis, when you're going to export your results, there is an option under more options down at the very bottom that says include download links for user uploaded files. So if you click that button, when you get your spreadsheet, one of the columns will be a URL that you can click on that will then allow you to download each of those files individually, which depending on how you're using them can be helpful.
That was all for now.
Excellent. Okay, so now we have updated the look and feel. Let's go into our survey options. Now my computer has frozen, bear with me. Okay. So this is where you can get in and do all kinds of behind the scenes sort of changes to this survey. You can change how the name is displayed, description, all kinds of things under these various menus. I'm not going to go through all of it today, but know that there are lots and lots of options here. Under responses, this is the secret access, not so secret access to how to turn on the back button. So I always like to use that feature. Most surveys, except for very, very basic ones, end up having more than one page. And I do think that it's really helpful to your respondents to be able to go backwards or forwards. So that's how you turn that on. There are some options about what to do about incomplete surveys and how to, what you can do with those. Other options down here, I will call out This survey availability is really helpful. So if you choose set specific start and expiration date, it'll give you the opportunity to put in dates and times. So if you have a very, very limited specific amount of time that you want your survey open, you're able to adjust that here and it will automatically open and close for you. So again, play around. Tons of security options. I'm not going to go through them today, but just to know that those are there. And then post survey. So post survey is really helpful. Some good options through here. The one that I use the most is called email triggers. That is where you are able to get in and make an auto response so that an email goes out to your respondent after they have submitted their survey. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like and create an email trigger for this RSVP survey that we've created. So if you go to edit triggers, this is what it auto-populates. It pulls the email address of the account user. I don't typically want these trigger emails going directly to me, but depending on how you're using it, you might. I usually just cut and paste it into the reply email because more often than not, if I'm creating it, I'm the one I would want people replying to. You can also put the from name, so you can put whatever you would like. Let's say today we're having these come from the Combs SAC. Well, not sad. And then, whatever you would like this to say in your subject line, SAC workshop. Sure, why not? So for the to email address, that's where you get into some of the fun functionality of the survey. You can use what is called piped text to pull the email from the response into this trigger email. So for whatever reason, you can't do it directly right here, but that's fine. There's an easy workaround. So if you click down into the body of the message, and you click this little A, it says insert piped text. So do that, and it will allow you to get to the survey question that has the information you need to pull. So here is email. All right, so I'm going to cut and paste this into the to email address because that is now going to pull the respondent's email. Okay, so getting into the body of the email, again, you can kind of do whatever you would like, tons of functionality. I like to use pipe text again here. Go to survey question, provide first name. I split it out specifically for this purpose. So now, forgot to say dear, first name, then now it will pull that for you. Then the body of your trigger email, I'm going to make it pretty basic. Okay. Most likely you'll want to include more useful information than that, but I think that's good for today's purposes. So down here, you have more options. I usually have it just send immediately, but you have all kinds of flexibility in that area. You have the choice whether or not to what it calls include response report. Basically, that's the entire survey and the respondents' answers that would be at the bottom of this trigger email. Also up here, you can add a condition so you can control various people, who gets it, why. There can be multiple email triggers for multiple purposes. You can get pretty complex here. This is just a real basic version. I'm going to say finish editing, save trigger, and now that's built into your survey. So one thing I will call out, as I had mentioned earlier, it's really useful to copy old surveys and reuse them going forward. When you do that, it will copy the trigger email information as well, but you can't really see it. It's kind of hidden behind the scenes. So whenever you copy a survey, I recommend either you go here and look to see if there is a trigger built in, or also another way to check that is when you preview your survey, if you actually type in your full email address, theoretically, you would get that trigger email sent to you in the process of testing it out. And then you would know, oh, I need to go in and make changes to that or delete it or whatever the case may be. All right, so that is pretty much from the top to finish how I created the RSVP survey. I will say in my trigger email that I use for today's workshop, I did include a link. So that's something you can do here is a link to the Zoom meeting. The nice thing about that is you can link to whatever makes sense if you need to. In theory, I don't have a way, well, in theory, you can also use that to link to a calendar appointment. I don't know a way to actually attach calendar appointments to these sort of trigger emails, but there is a way to save Outlook calendar appointments and upload them either to maybe UTbox or the Qualtrics library, and then link to that within the body of this trigger email. So no, that was a question that had come up, so I thought I'd throw that out there as an option. Okay, so one more thing I'm going to show you, and then I will pause for more questions. Getting back into the broader view of Qualtrics. Now we're back into the dashboard. I'm going to show you the See All Projects version. I think it's easier to do some of the functionality from this view. So this is the survey that we've been working with. And if you go over here to these 3 dots, that's how you can copy the project and reuse going forward. But also I wanted to show that you can collaborate. So let's say I've started getting responses, but I want Diana Bessler to also be able to see who is responding to the survey. So I'm going to go to collaborate. And you can search by name, by EID. I will say, if the person you're trying to collaborate with has never logged into this instance of Qualtrics, you're not going to find them in the database. And you will need to send them the link, tell them to log in. Once they have logged in one time, then they will show up here. So let's look for Diana. There she is. I'm going to add her. I'm going to invite her. And now it gives me some options of what level of access does she have. Well, Diana can have all the access she wants, but let's say I was sharing this with a student and I didn't really want them to be able to edit the survey or to edit the results of the survey, for example. You can get in here and really customize what people can and can't do. But I'll save it. She can have all the access she wants. So now we have created it, people have responded, we have collaborated and shared the results with folks. I'm going to pause. There is 1 or 2 more other things I can quickly show, but I'll wait and see how many questions we have.
You've been answering the questions as we've gone, so you're good.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Is it selfish for one of those to be the file upload so I can share a tip I recently learned about how to make that work? That is
one of the things I'm going to show. And maybe you know something I don't, so I look forward to seeing that.
I am just fresh off of the set it up for the first time, knowing it works again. So it's just fresh on the mind and exciting.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to click on my survey to get back into editing it. And what I'm going to show you is a little bit more advanced customization that you can use. So I really like to use display logic in my surveys. And one of the advantages of that is if you are sending the survey to multiple audiences, you might not actually have the same questions that you need to ask for every audience. But it's really convenient to bundle everything into one survey so that you're only dealing with one survey link. You're downloading everything all in one place, but you can sort of customize what people are seeing through their path of the survey. So I'm going to quickly show you how that works. So let's see. I am going to add a question below this initial question. And I'm going to say, which best describes you? All right, so just for example. Okay, so I added a multiple choice question. And let's say, for example, what questions do you have about Qualtrics question? We only want students to be able to submit questions, but we don't want to give that opportunity to faculty and staff. So you would select this question and go over here under question behavior and select display logic. And now it is saying, display this question only if the following condition is met. So in this case, we're saying question, and then you select the question under which best describes you. If the choice is student, if that's what is selected, then this question will be displayed. Save that, and then test it out. So let's preview. And you'll see that that question is not currently down here. Also, under tools, we can use that ignore validation option, which is helpful here so that I don't have to put anything in these boxes to show you how this works or to test it out. So if I hit students and I hit next page, now that question is popping up. So let's go back. There's the handy back button that we created. Now what happens if I choose staff instead? Hit next page. Well, it didn't show that question, and there were no more questions. So it submitted the survey, and that was the post-survey response. So that's just a real quick example of how you're able to use display to impact the flow of your survey for different respondents. Pause there and see if there are any questions about that.
No questions.
Okay. Well, then let's get into that file upload question. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to point something else out. So in what I did, I messed up my question order because I inputted a question here in the middle. So in a simple survey like this, it doesn't actually probably matter much, although it's kind of annoying. But when you get into more complex surveys, it will come into play. So let me quickly show you how to fix that as well. If you want, you can just click on it and renumber it manually. For a short survey, that's fine. But here under tools, you actually can go to auto number questions. And it brings up this menu. We're going to stick with the basic version, hit apply, and voila, my numbers are now numbered correctly. So quick trick for you. Okay, so let's add another question, but we'll do it here so it stays in order. And this is going to be the file upload option. So we're going to go over to question type and go down. And here is that file upload question type that we're going to choose. And say, so what's nice about this feature is that it's really seamless to gather stuff as part of your overall process. For example, we put on a conference where we collect resumes from our students that are participants in that event. And so we have this using display logic. This question will show up if they select that they are a student, and then it explicitly asks for them to upload their resume, we could say what format and so forth. And it's all part of the survey flow, which is great. So you see how easy it was to create that question. Let's preview it so you can see what it looks like. All right, well, because we have that display logic, we'll have to choose something. Also, I'm going to ignore validation, but let's say we're choosing students. Next page. So here's that questions question. And now here is the option to upload your file. You select here, and it just opens up a window to pull things from your desktop. And you will be able to get to this point even if you're not in the right theme. But what will happen is if you go to publish and you haven't changed your theme to the new updated version and the new updated layout, you won't pass the audit, and it will not allow you to publish your survey using this question type because of accessibility reasons. So this is a nice workaround to be able to use this question type. So I'm going to pause there. Diana, did you have any adds to this?
Yes, I do. According to the UT knowledge base, in order to get the simple layout dynamic option to work with the file upload, if you exit out of your preview and go back into your survey options, and then go to security, you're going to want to go down to bot detection and turn that off. Excellent. You've already set yours up, Lori Van Orden. So if it's the first time you are setting up, you're going to want to make sure that bot detection is turned off. Otherwise, it will prevent your uploads from occurring.
Hey, I did not know that. And what's interesting, because Qualtrics is always a learning experience, it looks like that was defaulted and I didn't have an option to turn it on. So it may or may not work the same way for everybody, depending on what theme and layout you're in. That might be part of the determination.
I think it is absolutely a cause for the call of poke around Qualtrics, see what it has to offer, see what's going to change, see what's going to work for you. It's so customizable. Just go in there and play with it. You can't break Qualtrics. It's beautiful.
Samantha, what questions have come through?
So we currently don't really have any questions, although I did want to give Brooke Ricard a chance to, if she wants to unmute and talk about the add to calendar workflow, but you don't have to. I just wanted to see if you wanted to kind of talk that out.
Sure. And I think my supervisor, Jamie Smith, is also on the training. We worked together on it. And like I said, it was not the easiest. And I don't think we cobbled something together. And I don't know that I was Googling code and we were putting stuff in. So I wondered if there was just easy templates for it. I would be happy to work with Jamie. It's been a couple months now since we set up. Actually, it was back in January that we set that up. Maybe we could revisit it and share how we did it. I'm curious if anybody else on this group has done the custom emails that then have the add to calendar feature.
I love that you guys have figured out how to do it.
Yeah, well, I think we cobbled it together. So I don't know. I don't want to put Jamie on the spot either, but maybe we can regroup and kind of remember what we did and share that out just to maybe Lori and a few others and see. It sounds like there might be, is there Qualtrics support too that we have within UT that we could ask about?
There is. So actually that was leading into some of my wrap up stuff. So I will say, there are all kinds of things that you can do within Qualtrics that I don't know about. It evolves and improves and they add things to it all the time. So in general, I would say it's very possible that there are, folks using Qualtrics within McCombs or within UT that know how to do all kinds of other things that are very cool and useful. So definitely lean on your colleagues to learn how to do additional stuff as well. And then, yes, there is some UT support. There is a knowledge base for UT Qualtrics. Then also Qualtrics in and of itself has a ton of information built in for help. So what we're planning on doing following this meeting is to share out just a general outline of what we covered today, but then also some links to how to log in, where some of that help exists online as well. Any other questions out there?
Nothing in the chat, although I personally want to thank everybody in the chat who has helped answer other questions that have popped up. I think that is an important thing we're learning and trying to showcase, is that really we have a lot of knowledge amongst ourselves as staff, and it would be great if we actually could share that information with each other and help each other out. So thank you all.
Lori, I did have just one more thing on my list to point out, and that is the library function. You know, if anybody's wondering, where do I put graphics that I want to use to customize my survey? I just wanted to point out that they can go to their library, and that's where anything that you're creating in your custom messages, your emails, your graphics, all comes into this part of your Qualtrics license.
That is such a good point. So yes, I got to that from here, the 3 bars down to the library. And this is mostly, in my case anyway, stuff that I've uploaded through Qualtrics, like in creating a header, for example. Well, then this is where you can go and adjust or delete or reuse, whatever the case may be. There's also a way to get to like the different messages that you've created, like the end of survey message and so forth. So that's a great call out.
Lori, one question. Did you state that there are different duration options for the trigger emails?
Yeah, so if you aren't required to send it out immediately, you can do an hour later, day later. There were various options. There was a drop-down menu within that window.
Thank you.
All right, well, I know we are coming up on time and we covered a ton of content today. Thank you all so much for joining. I'm excited that, we're all in this together and we'll continue to learn together. Another big thank you to Diana and Samantha for helping me out today. And yeah, thanks for attending our inaugural edition of the Horns Up Skills Up workshop series. You guys have a great day.